Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and you're very welcome to the Ladies Radio Centre Ireland webinar. I'm delighted that you are here and attending this afternoon. You'll probably have seen over the last while, Radio Centre Ireland has commissioned quite a lot of research to really look at empirical evidence about the power and the effectiveness of the medium in terms of driving business objectives. So we've had research that looks at how audio drives brand consideration, purchase intent, brand awareness. We've had other research that looks at how audio drives performance and website traffic. What today is all about is really looking at brands in practice to give real examples of brilliant work that has been done by brands in Ireland using the medium. And I'm delighted today we have two case studies that were both awarded at the Media Awards earlier in the year. We have the Fáilte Ireland case study that won gold at the Media Awards, so many congratulations. And we have the Irish Life case study that was also shortlisted at the Media Awards. So again, many congratulations. So I'm delighted to welcome Tara, Chloe from Mindshare and Chris from Zenith Media. And what we're going to do now is, firstly, we're going to go through the Fáilte Ireland case study, and shortly I'm going to hand over to Chloe and to Tara. We'll have a short Q&A on that case study. Then Chris will follow with the Irish Life case study, and then we'll have a broad Q&A at the end. Just to say, anybody who wants to ask a question, if you go to the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, just type your question, and I'll ask that question at the end. So for now, I'm delighted to hand over to Tara and Chloe, who'll go through the brilliant work that you did for Fáilte Ireland.
Hello, everybody. We are so thrilled to talk to you guys today about, as Des and or as Kieran said, the gold-winning case that we presented at the Media Awards this year for Fáilte Ireland, and our campaign called, well, we call Daycations, but most people would know it as Best Staycation Ever. So myself, I am Tara Moran. I'm the business director on Fáilte Ireland, and I've worked on it for quite a number of years now at this stage. And this is easily one of the most exciting uses of audio from our perspective that we've gotten to do. So we're delighted to share it today. And I also have Chloe Gilday, who was the account director who made everything that you're about to see actually happen. So I suppose to give you guys a bit of context about why we had to do this campaign in the first place, but also really kind of get to the solution that we got to. A lot of what we do day to day in media and communications for Fáilte Ireland is all really about driving those overnight domestic trips. You know, that's the bread and butter of what we do. But, you know, it wasn't enough for us to have one crisis for the tourism sector and every other sector in the form of COVID. In 2023, what we really saw was that Ireland's response to the Ukrainian crisis really presented quite a unique challenge for the tourism sector at large. So outside of Dublin, 13% of registered bed stock was taken out of the market, and that went up to nearly 20% in some counties. And that was of June 2023. So what that really meant was that not just that there was a lack of available beds for people to go and take an overnight trip, but the effect was that those ancillary tourism businesses that are, you know, built in those areas, so things like you know, renting kayaks or going on tours, they were estimated to suffer a loss of revenue of about €1 billion because there wasn't as many tourists coming to those destinations. And it was disproportionately affecting attractions and activities. So to support the industry, ourselves, Fáilte Ireland, and our creative and PR partners, we needed to pivot and needed to pivot very, very fast. So instead of overnight trips and short stays, we really needed to mobilize the nation to go on day trips, really visiting those paid for attractions and activities to make sure that those businesses were supported. So what was the best way to approach this? This was a unique challenge for us in media and communications. So we had to start somewhere. And the first thing that we really learned, and probably the most helpful piece of information we had, was that Fáilte Ireland's own bespoke research uncovered that most people will only travel between 60 and 90 minutes for a day trip. So really, when you think about it, for most, that means staying within your own county, depending on the size of the county, or those neighboring counties. So really tapping into this geographical boundary that we had really became a key media pillar for us in media and communications. Our audience was broad. Essentially, we needed to encourage everybody to try and get out. But our audience analysis really identified that the biggest growth opportunities were in what we call young unconstrained adults. So these are adults under 45 with no children, as well as families, because they had a higher propensity to take more day trips throughout the year, but they also had a higher average spend. So our messaging, therefore, had to be broad enough, but relevant to both cohorts. And the other thing that we found in our research was that, and we'll kind of show why this is relevant later, is that Irish people really trust our recommendations from our friends and family. So while some counties were more badly affected than others, as I said, in some places was as high as 20% of bed stock taken out, no county in any shape or form was left unscathed by this sudden decrease in accommodation. So this therefore needed to be a national campaign. But with that said, the brief and the tricky part about it was that it was centered on experiencing and supporting locally. So a big, off-the-shelf broadcast approach on its own really wasn't going to suffice. So our media challenge, when we distilled it down, became, how can we inspire and demonstrate the breadth of experiences and wonderful things that there is for people to do in Ireland, but do that locally and do it at scale? So the lovely Chloe is going to tell you exactly how we tackled that challenge.
So audio was really going to be the hero channel for this campaign for multiple reasons. So it ranks extremely high when it comes to reach, which I'm sure everyone kind of knows that by now, but the latest Gen Lore tells us that 91% of adults are listening to radio weekly. To bring our message to local communities through local voices, we had to look also, though, at the strength of local radio. And we found that a whopping 2.2 million adults listen to local radio every week, with 50% of them saying they listen to local radio only. We also can't ignore how listening patterns are forever changing. So we had to explore the use of online audio for this campaign as well. So online audio listenership is still rising with by 6 percentage points increase since last year. Reach is an obvious metric when we look at audio, obviously, but trust was also a really important element for this particular message as well. So the fact that radio ranks as the second most trusted channel, only to be beaten by TV, really worked in our favor for this too. And finally, what radio has, and in particular what local radio has, is strong, authentic personalities and voices. So these presenters are with their listeners every day, and many of them would see them as trusted friends. So going back to the insight that Tara spoke about around people trusting recommendations from friends, who else was better to deliver a message than these local, authentic voices? So what did the execution actually look like? So spot advertising across local and national stations, as well as online audio, established the term daycation initially and the wider benefits of taking a one-day getaway. However, the crux of the communication solution really sat in partnership and content. So because we really had to showcase regional and neighbourhood businesses and give a real sense of what Ireland had to offer right on the doorsteps of our listeners. So we partnered with every single local radio station in the Republic of Ireland. So over 8 weeks, we challenged each station and their personalities to get out there, experience the unique offerings of their area, and bring their adventures back to their listeners on air. So this really was beyond a standard partnership. We needed to leverage multiple formats in order to reach all the different objectives that we had. So to land the concept, each station created bespoke pre-promotional stings, driving frequency and messaging about daycations and the breadth of things that there are to do in Ireland. But to inspire listeners, we needed rich storytelling and deeper narratives. So the presenter-led bespoke content pieces were central to this. We worked with each media owner in pre-planning to match the relevant presenters to relevant attractions and activities. And the presenters also built on this, giving their personal recommendations of things to do in their area. The authentic nature of these longer form bespoke features was really unique, and the presenters loved having the freedom to create these themselves and bring them to their listeners. And we also got the listeners involved with competitions where people could call in with their own recommendations of local gems for a chance to win a voucher for their own vacation. People love talking about their own counties, so that was very clear how to do in this campaign. So the content was super engaging and really entertaining. We have a little sample here of what it sounded like on air. It's a little bit long, but I think it kind of is the best way of showing you exactly, giving you a feel for kind of what the campaign was like.
iRadio's best staycation ever with Fáilte Ireland, spotlighting the amazing things you can see and do in Ireland in just one day.
We have teamed up with Fáilte Ireland this summer to help you have the best daycation ever. So, what's a daycation? Well, it's the feeling of a holiday all in one day, jam-packed day, where you can enjoy so many amazing things to see and do right on your doorstep. And rather than just telling you, hey, go and have a daycation, we want to give you some inspiration. Today we're looking at perfect date staycations. And I know you might think this is self-centred, the Leitrim man talking about Leitrim, but honestly, you need to hear about the Shed Distillery experience in Drumshanbo, County Leitrim, nestled along the banks of Lough Allen. You can take in the boardwalk that day as well, the Jackalope Cafe. You can see what they do, how they do it at the Shed Distillery of PJ Rigney, the curious mind of PJ Rigney. Can you tell him a fan?
I mean, you can learn all about the history. You can be getting yourself something very nice to eat there as well. The location is stunning. What more would you want for your little staycation?
It's only a few miles out the road of Carrigan-Shannon as well, so you can take that in too. So that is idea number one, and your perfect daycation, the Shed Distillery experience in Drumshanbo, County Leitrim. If though,
maybe you want to get just a little bit more active, how about you head to the Kildare Maze? So this is kind of cool, right? Because, you know, you're on a date with someone, you want to maybe just have something to talk about, something to do. Your challenge is to find your way through 1.5 acres of hedge lined with paths. Find the viewing tower at the centre of the maze. So that is a challenge in itself to get to. As well, you've got crazy golf there, you've got an assault course, picnic area, zip wire. It's all the activities.
Did you know that Kildare had such a maze, and in the centre is like a St. Bridget's cross? You need to see it to believe it, the KildareMaze.com. And if you're Héna Dó 3, how about getting out on the water with Galway Bay boat tours?
Like, this is so cool, because if you've spent any time in Galway City, you know it's a stunning place to be and you can walk around it. But how about you actually explore Galway City from the sea? The famous Galway hooker. We all know the Galway hooker, and not only can you head out on the Galway hooker, you can actually do a workshop as well as the boat tour. You could actually take on a Claddagh and Docklands walking tour as well if you wanted to, but really it is all about exploring Galway City from the sea.
We all do know about the Galway Bay hooker,
the Galway hooker.
But how much do we really know about it? You could learn more with GalwayBayTours.com. Those are 3 things for your perfect daycations. We want to encourage you to get out and experience the best daycation ever. It's an opportunity to celebrate the abundance of things to do on our doorstep and experience the feeling of a holiday all in one day. Plan it well, and you could be talking about it for months and weeks and years.
iRadio's best daycation ever with Fáilte Ireland.
So the scale of the campaign really was unmatched. So we crossed 26 counties, 30 stations, 44 shows, 52 presenters, resulting in over 4,000 media placements, making this a totally unmissable campaign no matter what corner of the country you were in. But now for the important part, the results. So we got the word out and promoted 360 businesses. These are businesses that otherwise may not have got the kind of promotion or advertising of this scale before. And it really, it was a really important objective for the client that this was done, and we covered as many as we could. We also performed pre and post wave research on the campaign, which measured things like awareness and intent. We got really good news there as well. So the awareness of the term daycation and what it means grew by 11 percentage points, which meant that our broad reaching media really did its job at landing the concept with the public. When it came to intent, we surveyed a nationally representative sample, but identified local radio listeners versus those who say they do not listen to local radio. And the difference between them was really amazing. So 81% said that they were likely to take a vacation the next 3 months versus 52% of non-local radio listeners. So this really shows the strength and impact that our local and authentic voices had. And finally, and probably the most important metric, the business results. So there was a notable increase in paid for activities and attractions, especially with our target audiences. We saw a 10 percentage point increase among unconstrained adults and 3 percentage point increase among families. So thank you for your time today. And we really just want to leave you with a quick summary of why we believe this campaign won gold in its category this year in the Media Awards. We used very clear insights to inform our strategy, where we leveraged the travel habits of Irish people to determine how we spoke and where we showed up in media. And we took on the challenge to deliver a message at scale, but at a local level as well. We championed audio in all of its amazing forms, so not just spot radio, but longer form curated content that had cut through and impacted the listeners. The scale of the campaign as well was super unique, and the approach that we took was kind of unlike anything we'd done before. And most importantly, the communications and business results really spoke for themselves. So we landed the idea and benefits of a vacation and hopefully created a new travel habit among the Irish public. And the increase in revenue for the attractions and activities industry was proof that campaigns like this really can make a difference to overall business goals. Thank you very much.
That is fantastic, Chloe and Tara. Brilliant presentation, brilliant case study, and well deserving of the Gold Award that you received earlier in the year. You alluded to it during your presentation. I'm just going to follow up on what you talked about, which was the amount of work that must have gone into that campaign. How did you resource the agency, your teams, and work with the station to deliver such incredible array of content across all stations over a relatively short period of time? What was your secret? How did you do
I think
it?
it was, yeah, arguably a very short period of time. So there's no magic secret or anything there. We don't have a reserve team in the background waiting to go to react to a brief like this. So I think the first thing was the client really did a great job of communicating how important this campaign was. And, you know, particularly when you're talking about impacting all of these local businesses and the thousands of people that are affected, it really does help kind of light a bit of a fire under you and the team as well. So that was the first thing, was that, you know, they really made us care about what we were doing. And therefore we all really wanted to just get behind it and just do what needed to be done to make it happen. And that, like, we had to do, you know, a lot of prioritization with the client and make sure that our focus was singular with the team that was working on this project at the time. But no, there's no getting around the fact that it was a massive amount of effort by not just the, you know, the media and creative teams, but the client teams and the stations that were involved. Everybody really wanted it to succeed.
Right, brilliant. And by the way, if anybody's any question, I think there was somebody raised a hand, but if you just type the question into the Q&A button, I can then ask the question on your behalf. How much freedom did you give to the stations versus, you know, obviously you're working with a client, you have a specific brand message, but then you're leaning on the strength and skills of talent within the stations. So how did you manage that? What were the guidelines given in that area?
Yeah, do you know what? I think given the local presenters, some amount of freedom was really important because, as I said in the presentation, it had to feel really authentic and really like it was your friend giving a genuine recommendation. But at the end of the day, it is for a particular client who has particular things that they want kind of delivered. So to be honest, there was, as Tara said, there was a lot of work done by the client as well in terms of like playbooks that we did pre-campaign that kind of outlined the sort of activities that they wanted to cover, the businesses that they wanted to cover. And there was a lot of kind of checking in as well mid-campaign and stuff to make sure that everyone was kind of hitting what they needed to hit. But when it came to kind of the presenters choosing what they wanted out of that list, it was actually pretty, like they were pretty free to do that and pick what they thought actually suited them. So it was good because we were able to kind of match presenters that had kids. They naturally would want to go on kind of a family activity or something like that. So it was just a really nice way to do it. It was really different way to approach it, and just giving them that much freedom, I think, really actually like led to the success of everything, or led to the success of the campaign, because it just all felt very authentic and very genuine. So it was
Okay.
it was great. Yeah.
Right. I know you said at the start of the presentation there was a certain circumstance led you to this campaign, the brief. You've explained it very well, but obviously always at Fáilte Ireland, local is so important to what to the business objectives. But is this the first time you had this approach, or did you look at this type of approach for other campaigns historically?
This is the first time. Now, I wasn't working on the account as long as Tara, but I think it's safe to say this is the first time that it was at this scale for sure. I think we always do leverage local stations when it comes to any other campaign that we do for Fáilte Ireland. It's a lot of spot campaigns and everything on local. But this was the first time that we approached it from a partnership of such a massive scale, and the amount of content that was coming through was like nothing we'd ever done before. So it was certainly the first of its kind for us anyway on this particular client. And it was the first time that I actually as well in my career had done something so massive with local radio. So it was really great to see the content that came through from the different presenters and stations and everything. It was brilliant.
Brilliant. And any that you can share, any learnings going into next year, anything that you might change, or anything that when you started you didn't realize would happen and can build that in?
Yeah, so there was a few things. So we actually did rerun the campaign in 2024 for the summer period. And there was some things that we were able to do. So for example, the list of maybe recommended attractions and activities was refined a little bit to make sure that there wasn't a massive amount of overlaps, particularly in stations where there's maybe 1 or 2 stations covering the county, regional and local. And so that was one of the things that we learned. The other thing was that we really felt the best benefit of the on-air activity rather than the kind of additional social and other pieces that were attached to the different partnerships. So when we were talking to the partners this year, we kind of pivoted and directed a little bit more of the activity in that way. So they were, I suppose, some of the biggest learnings. I think the thing we all wanted is always more time, which is what everybody always wants in any campaign, no matter how much time you're given. But that's just not always the reality of working on government business, or not just unique to Fáilte Ireland. Sometimes the needs crop up quite late. But we did have a bit more time this year. It was the collaboration and the things that worked well, like the playbooks, as Chloe said, the check-in meetings with the partners. But also there wasn't as much feedback necessarily to give in the second year because the partners were already adept at what the content should be or should sound like and what kind of messages needed to be hit. So yeah, from that way, it worked a bit better.
Brilliant. I just have one question on the Q&A, which is, I'll just read it out. Are you encouraged by how the station supported your plan? And did it encourage you to engage in this way again in the future to leverage local and regional stations?
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. I have to say that, every one of the local partners that we worked with were so on the ball. They were so collaborative. They really, again, it was a really good job, I think, of the client team as well as ourselves and the invention team that we work with to help them understand the impact of what we were trying to do on the businesses that we were trying to support. And ultimately, that's the benefit to everybody. They were supporting their local communities. So the way that they then, the people that we were in contact with, the way that they distilled the information down to every one of the local stations and made everything work so seamlessly and take the feedback on board and show how it was being implemented. And then the results were so strong that it did actually open up our eyes to new potential opportunities in the future, which you will hopefully hear about next year if we win another gold.
Excellent. Brilliant. Listen, many thanks, Chloe. There, that was fantastic. Really appreciate it. I know you're staying online because we're going to have a very quick, broader kind of discussion at the end. So listen, really appreciate it. Fantastic campaign and well-worthy gold winner. And now I'd like to introduce Chris Murphy from Zenith Media, who was also shortlisted as part of the Media Awards for Irish Life. So I'm going to hand over to Chris, and he's going to talk through some of the great work that Zenith Media did with Media Central, in partnership with Media Central and with the client Irish Life. So over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Kieran. Hello, everyone. Firstly, thanks to Kieran for having us on today to discuss and showcase our fantastic campaign with Irish Life for their My Life campaign. Firstly, as well, I just want to say apologies on behalf of Graham, who was due to co-present with me this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, from Audio XI. Unfortunately, some tech issues means I'm left presenting by myself, so you'll just have my voice to listen to. But yeah, we're here to talk about our best use of audio entry for the Media Awards, which, as Kieran mentioned, was shortlisted this year. 23,688 steps to success with My Life. So Graham, obviously, unfortunately, is not here, and who I am, I'm Chris Murphy. I'm the client director on the Irish Life account here in Zenit. So just in terms of a bit of an agenda, we'll look at kind of background and objectives of the campaign, a bit about data collection and integration, design and methodology, execution and how it sounded. So we'll play a little video so you can get a sample of how the campaign sounded, and most importantly, results. So just for anyone who's unaware what My Life is, so My Life is essentially it's a personal coach in your pocket. It's Irish Life's health and fitness app, and what it does is it incentivizes the user to make sustainable health improvements through fitness rewards and activity challenges, essentially. So it's a great app to basically help you track your own health and kind of see ways to make improvement. And obviously, look, there's a lot of these type of apps on the market, and the GAA Healthy Club Step Challenge, which has been running for about 5 years now, is a really great way of getting this kind of out there to local communities and partnering with the GAA to bring it to life. So just in terms of our overall, getting into our overall strategy. So like I said, the actual GAA Healthy Club Steps Challenge has been running for a number of years now. So a big challenge for us is, I suppose, and every year with this, is to kind of reinvigorate and reignite the challenge amongst users. Like I said, it is in partnership with about 900 GAA clubs. So it's quite broad, nationally, local level. But again, it's to get people incentivized to download the app, use the app, and take part in the challenge. So overall, our get to buy here was get Adams mainly 25 to 45s to download the My Life app by taking part in the Every Step Counts challenge. So how are we planning to do this? We're planning to do this basically with, we devised a 3 strategic pillar approach, and it's awareness, acquisition, and action. So in terms of awareness, we firstly needed to let people know that the challenge was back. Like I said, it's had decent uptake for the last number of years, and we just needed to let people know it's back, first of all. Acquisition was all about recruiting participants to the challenge, so directing them to download the My Life app where they can take part. And then action is that continuous engagement across the month. The challenge itself begins that kind of first week of Jan every year. So, yes, it's that awareness phase leading up that it's back, but then it's that continuous involvement across the month. Sorry, this is just not building for me. And what were our KPIs? So overall, we wanted to increase My Life app downloads. We wanted to increase new users. We wanted to increase monthly average usage, and we wanted to increase Steps Challenge participants. And I suppose what we're speaking about today is obviously the dynamic audio aspect of this plan, in terms of the Media Award entry. And the beauty of dynamic audio, I suppose, is it allowed us to straddle all 3 strategic pillars here in a way none of the other media channels we had in our plan did. So in terms of data collection and integration, basically, we looked at some different insights, collected some data and looked at some different insights that led us to choose digital audio first and foremost, and then dynamic audio as the right media choice for us. So IAB Listen Up Ireland research shows that 77% of people are listening to digital audio in an average week. Then in terms of AMA, so that's a Million Ads, their power of personalization study. So this is where we're getting to the kind of, that right message at the right time to the right person. Over half of respondents say they're more likely to purchase a product or service or take action, I suppose, in this instance, as the My Life app is free, but after having seen or heard a personalized ad. And then we had the Audio XI ad server, which essentially what this done is it allowed us to look at what we want to do. That's personalization at scale, and look at, the different content triggers, geo triggers, time of day of week triggers, and see what is in there, what are the volumes available, so that we could do this across the country. So I suppose it's in the title, so the giveaway is in the title of the entry, but in total, layering in these 6 different dynamic level triggers, we had 23,688 possible variations of the Irish Life audio ad, which basically meant that everyone listening to it, there was a good chance if you listen to the ad twice, you're going to hear a different message each time, depending on the time of day, where you are, what device you're listening on, etc. And it just meant the message was all that more engaging and would resonate that bit more with the audiences as well. And it ultimately produced exceptional results, which we'll touch on it shortly. So this is just a kind of a guide of how the setup works. So you're kind of seeing, again, just to emphasize, this is all done with our partners in Audio XI. So we take what was the radio script and we identify where are the possible dynamic triggers here, where can we layer in that personalization, that customization. And so you can see the text highlighted in blue on screen here is where that relevance comes in. So this is obviously just an example we are thinking before you get into this podcast. So it's that content level trigger this January. So it's that time trigger all across Dublin, the geo trigger, this morning, the time of day trigger, while you're on your phone, the device trigger, and again, this Monday, the day trigger. So it's all those different triggers. So no matter where, when, or how you're listening to the ad, it was relevant to you. This is just a continuation of how that builds out then across the various locations. So we had 32 counties, and I think it was about 16 of the main towns in Ireland that we targeted with geo specific messaging. And again, this is just a show of how the platform itself works. But rather than stick through all that, we have a little video that is using an AI generated VO that kind of shows an example of a couple of how the ads work themselves. So I'll play that out now.
You're about to hear how Audio XI and Zenith Media use dynamic audio to create the most successful campaign to date for Irish Life. These innovative minds created a staggering 23,688 different variations of the Irish Life My Life audio ad, which drove never-been-seen-before results. Here's some of the possible variations.
Before your music begins, we just wanted you to know that it's easier than ever to get healthy this January with the right support. The Irish Life GAA Healthy Clubs Challenge is helping communities get active all across Letterkenny. Every step you take tonight could help your GAA club win a cash prize. And there's €30,000 up for grabs. So while you're on your phone, download My Life, the free health and wellbeing app, and help your local GAA club win a cash prize. Register, join the challenge, and start tracking your steps this Saturday. Before this radio show starts, we just wanted you to know that it's easier than ever to get healthy this new year with the right support. The Irish Life GAA Healthy Clubs Challenge is helping communities get active all across Naas. Every step you take this afternoon could help your GAA club win a cash prize. And there's €30,000 up for grabs. Before you get into this podcast, we just wanted you to know that it's easier than ever to get healthy after Christmas with the right support. The Irish Life GAA Healthy Clubs Challenge is helping communities get active all across Dublin. Every step you take this morning could help your GAA club win a cash prize.
So yeah, just with those examples, you can kind of see how the kind of dynamic jigsaw pieces as such are pieced together. And like I said, over 23,000 variations in total were possible. In terms of the actual results of the dynamic audio campaign then, so just looking on screen here, so we served over 1 million impressions in total, and we reached in and around 500,000 in terms of unique reach. So what this is telling us is that there's about a 2-to-1 average here. So that, you know, the average person that would have heard our ad twice, and what that tells us is that they more than likely didn't hear the same ad twice as well. They would have heard a different variation. What's really impressive, however, is the 95% listen through rate. So I suppose context, it was a 40-second piece of creative, and on a 40-second piece of creative, the average listen through rate is around 80%. So we're coming in 15 percentage points higher here, which again just shows that relevant messaging really resonates more with the listener. Then looking at some of the different dynamic variables and how they broke out. Firstly, sorry, that build didn't work there for a second. Firstly, in terms of time of day, so basically we can really begin to see how the different dynamic triggers helped us kind of transcend all three strategic pillars. So that time of day and day of week messaging really helped drive that piece, that urgency piece. So we were able to deliver the right call to action all the way from awareness to acquisition, because this began pre-launch. So the challenge started on the 6th of January. We began from end of December. So we're running awareness first, right into acquisition and action. And then in terms of geo-targeting again, so that national reach was being delivered with localized messaging. So again, I know we've seen in the previous example as well, the guys speaking about Fáilte Ireland and that power of local, which is one of the benefits with dynamic audio and those geo triggers, I should say. We can really deliver that local message at scale, really personalized dynamic trigger here as well. And from a specific aspect of this campaign, with it being in partnership with the GAA Healthy Clubs Steps Challenge, it really helped deliver on that like community aspect we know that the GAA is so involved in, and really drive up that competitive spirit as well. And finally, just looking at device-led messaging. So again, this was really important in terms of that action piece and acquisition piece in terms of downloading. So we were able to say, you know, while you're listening on your mobile, please download the My Life app today. But onto the important part, which is, I suppose, the business results. And the good news is it was the strongest year ever for the GAA Healthy Clubs Challenge. So in total, app installs for My Life were up 18% year on year when looking at the same campaign period. New users were up 32% year on year. Monthly active users were up 25% year on year. And challenge participants were up 36% year on year. So these are huge figures. Like for context as well, like we would have been aiming for moderate increases, like either maintain or increase by about 5% on each of these. So like we really smashed the ceiling, and dynamic audio was the one piece of our plan that was firstly really new year on year. Because for example, we ran linear radio, and we know the power of linear radio and broadcast, and that done a really great job for the awareness phase. But I suppose again, the emphasis with the dynamic audios here is the power that it could transcend all three strategic pillars to really deliver right from awareness that it's back to downloads to people actually participating across the month, which you could see with the results on screen was fantastic. And I suppose that's best summed up by our client ourselves, which just our client Colin Carrigan in Irish Life, who said, leveraging the dynamic audio capabilities offered by Audio XI in our media strategy for the recent Irish Life GAA Healthy Clubs Challenge, we were able to deepen the GAA community engagement by incorporating county level callouts within our script and spots. This not only fostered a sense of belonging and rivalry in local clubs, it also drove urgency with personalised and relevant call to actions to get the nation of Ireland up and out and take part in every Steps Count challenge in January 2024, enhancing our campaign impact and connection with the target audience and GAA clubs all across Ireland. So yeah, a happy client is always a sign of great success, and we were really delighted with the success of this campaign, really highlighted by the business results. Thank you.
That is fantastic, Chris. Great presentation. And you can see the clear use of technology to deliver personalized, relevant messages to people that have impact by them going on and downloading the app. So like a brilliant case study again. Just a couple of questions. One is, because obviously you're ultimately were about as a performance kind of objective, so you wanted somebody to download the app. What was your decision at the start to use audio to deliver performance rather than just spending your money on traditional performance channels like search and social?
Yeah, so like, don't be mistaken, we still had search and social on the plan, of course. Again, the dynamic audio was the thing that could tie it all together better than any other media that we had available to us. So search and social do that bottom of funnel job really strong for us. So, you know, social does more higher mid funnel as well to an extent, but it doesn't have the power of audio in terms of firstly listen through rate or watch through rate. I suppose we're talking about social video versus audio. So it's that awareness, from awareness to acquisition to action, is really where this came into how it fitted within the media plan, if that makes sense, as opposed to we didn't just look at it as pure performance, and we look at these things holistically anyway. You know, we wouldn't want to isolate and just say that's performance. It's how all the media is working together. So yes, dynamic audio, while it's done a job in terms of DR, it was directing people to that download action piece, I suppose.
Perfect. And just say again, anybody, if you have any questions, if you just type them into the Q&A bar, and then I can ask those questions on your behalf. Just, I know this can be a tricky question in some ways, but how are you able to isolate the benefit of doing dynamic audio and using that technology rather than having using audio with a broader message? So if you hadn't have used dynamic audio, you just had a more traditional campaign, but using audio, how can you isolate the impact of the dynamic activity?
Yeah, so we did do a bit of a deep dive when we were looking at this in terms of campaign analysis back in January, post-January, etc. And thankfully, between client data and the dynamic audio data, we were able to marry up a lot of the results. So especially when it came to that county level aspect of it, and even day of week, time of day. So we were able to look at, okay, where did we serve most impressions at what time, when, etc., and correlate that to when actual app downloads are happening across the country, where they were happening and when. And the results kind of spoke for themselves in that regard. They married up really strongly. Now it's not a direct attributable download, but it's the next best thing we could get. And the second part of that then as well is that, like I said, when we look at the difference on plan year over year, which I don't know if I mentioned, I can't remember if I did, but we were actually down on media spend about 20 to 24% year over year. So we faced a significant challenge in that regard. And the main new thing we had on the plan, and creative for the most part across other media was similar year over year as well. So the main difference on plan was that dynamic audio as well. So, you know, I suppose between those two aspects, it's and then obviously the really strong business results, it's where it comes clear that this was a big success for us.
Brilliant. And then kind of similar question that I asked regarding the Fáilte Ireland case study. Do you have any learnings or improvement going forward? Is there anything you've learned that you might do slightly differently into the future? Yeah,
I think the big thing is, and it's like obviously, like as tech gets more advanced, as all these platforms etc. get more advanced, we can go even more granular with the personalization on this. I think the main learning is actually this is way more straightforward than it might seem. A couple of those more technical slides, which Graham probably would have done a beautiful job explaining better than myself this morning if he didn't have his own technical issues, might put anyone who's joined today off and think, oh, that looks all very technical and difficult, and you know there's a lot of lead-in times, and you can pull this together in about 3 or 4 weeks. And the guys in AudioX are great. They do a lot of the heavy lifting. So like in terms of being bogged down in terms of the granularity and being scared by that, no. So I think the learning is this is way more straightforward than it actually would seem. And secondly, that let's go more granular with this in the future. For this example, for example, can we go at a club level? So we done a county and town level. Can we get as granular as club? Now, like I said, tech would play a role in that in terms of, you know, dialing right in on a radius and geographic location to be club specific. And whether we're there yet, I don't think so. But that's something probably into the future that we could look at.
Okay. Sounds fantastic. Just a question in from from one of the attendees is, does dynamic audio deliver differently, say, to headphones compared to smart speakers?
Yeah, so that's one of the triggers we incorporated in this campaign. So it was device-led and it was content-led. So it can tell how you're listening, what you're listening to, what you're listening on, and deliver a relevant message. So in terms of device-led, we would have had, for example, while you're listening on your mobile or while you're listening on your smart speaker, I should say, etc. So yes, in short is the answer. You can do that.
Great. Just another comment, somebody else said they've just downloaded the app, so you've got an extra client, got an extra customer based on your presentation. So
brilliant, yeah. If they can download again in January, please.
I'm going to bring back Tara and Chloe then, if Tara and Chloe can come back. We're just going to have a very short, conscious of time, just going to have a very short kind of general quick chat about, and again, if anybody else has any questions, please put them into the Q&A button. I suppose as planners and people who are, you know, your role as agencies, as individuals, is to plan, is what do you like about audio as a medium in terms of planning for clients? And then also maybe the second part of that is what are the challenges when you're planning audio? So two parts of that. So I'm not sure, maybe Chloe, you might go first and then we'll ask other people to come in.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, what I like about planning radio is that there's a very unique relationship that Irish people have with radio versus, say, the UK. Like when we're dealing with our UK counterparts, they like kind of can't believe how much radio we have on plans. Because like every single Irish person, I think, listens to the radio or has a relationship with the radio. So it can be kind of an easy channel to sell into clients in that way. I also think what I really like planning about it too is the amount of robust research that we get from radio, like from the JNLR and all that kind of stuff. We always have amazing research and data to back up every choice that we make, whether it be what stations we're picking or shows or whatever it might be. So that makes our job much easier. And it's great to be able to back up and give rationale for every single choice that you make on radio as well. And then I think the third thing I would say is just that radio seemed to be fairly unaffected by COVID, which I couldn't really say the same for all channels. It kind of stayed pretty consistent. So I think that kind of shows the strength of it as well, that people still continue to listen to it in the same way, pretty much, even though there was crazy stuff going on in the world. So for me, they're the main reasons that I like planning it. It's an easy sell into clients a lot of the time.
Very good.
And then do you want someone else to take the challenges?
Yeah, maybe. Tara, do you want to think just a challenge in terms of some challenges that you face as a you know, a client lead and as a planner?
Yeah, so I think there are some challenges that actually hark back to what Chloe just said, is that if you have a unique relationship with certain radio stations or shows, or even certain online audio options, like I'm not a massive podcast listener, I'm a massive audiobook listener, you know, I think people inherently have their own biases about what they listen to, which means that those biases, when you present them to a client, sometimes creep into, oh, why isn't this, you know, this station on the, you know, on the plan, or why isn't this online audio option on the plan, or is. And I think that what we always have to do as planners, and certainly like in Mindshare, our mantra is the audience is our number one client. We have to keep going back to that research that Chloe talked about there for a second. You know, where is our audience? You know, who are we trying to speak to, and what are they doing? How are they listening, and what are they listening to? And make sure that we try and stay, at least initially in our recommendation, as true to that as possible. But there's always only sometimes, so many times you can argue that point. But I mean, that's what we lean on the research to do. And sometimes the other challenge is that, particularly if we have clients, as Chloe kind of pointed to, which are UK and Ireland, and sometimes Ireland is landed with the assets that are available in the UK, it can be sometimes difficult to tell a client, we really need audio on the plan for Ireland for all of these reasons. So really having partners in local creative agencies, in our local radio stations, that help us find a pretty cost-effective solution to get that channel on plan helps us overcome that particular challenge.
Brilliant. And Chris, do you want to add anything? It was quite comprehensive answers there, but maybe a couple of other points you want to add to that?
No, the only thing I was going to say was I think the guys pretty much summed it up. But I think to both their points as well. So both talked about the data we have, which is brilliant, and like we need to like lean into that data in terms of audience listenership and stuff like that. But what you see across most media channels is obviously, you know, we all know about fragmentation in media, but when you think about the audio landscape, and I'm talking all audio here, not just radio, not just digital audio, is it still plays such a massive part in everyone's day. And, you know, people still listening to the radio in the car. Like there's more connected cars as such now, but they're still generally listening to the radio. When people used to listen to Walkmans, now they might be listening to digital audio. You know, you might have had radio in the kitchen, you might have a smart speaker, but you're still listening to radio through the smart speaker. It's just the way the landscape has changed, but I think it's, even to someone who doesn't work in the industry, like you just chat to them in layman's terms, like audio plays such a massive part in everyone's day. So like that's what's great about planning it, and then depending on who your client is and who the target audience is, figuring out what the right mix is for that. And that's the challenge, both the opportunity but also the challenge, I suppose, getting that right mix.
Brilliant, great. Actually, a question has come in for everybody, and I might actually start answering it first and then hand over to all of you, which is, as well as activations, what impact did the campaign have on your brand awareness? Just to say, before you answer that, there was a research during the year that Radio Centre Ireland commissioned called the Brand Multiplier, and if you go onto the website, you'll see the webinar, and there's a quite detailed article on the results, and you can download the deck, and it measured 31 brands, 15 were on radio, 16 weren't, or maybe the other way around, and you can see across all those, and they're quite well-known brands, sort of very, household names, that across all metrics, such as awareness, consideration, purchase intent, the brands that are using radio had significant uplift. That's a more general answer, but specifically, maybe Tara, you might take that first. In terms of brand awareness.
Are you talking generally speaking, or in our case specifically?
Well, in your case specifically, or generally as well.
Yeah, so I think in our case specifically, one of the things that we really wanted to do was to put in measures to measure the impact of our local activations on key things like awareness of daycations, propensity to take a daycation. So what we did is we designed a research methodology which measured people who do and do not listen to local radio specifically, because our activation was only on local radio. We didn't have the same type of, content and conversation on our national radio partners or in any of our other channels, that was unique to local radio. And by having that measurement specifically and asking people, not only do you listen to local radio, but do you only listen to local radio, it meant that when we saw the corresponding results, we could concretely attribute it to people who listen to local radio. Now, we're not saying that they weren't affected by the social media and the outdoor and all of the other channels that they saw, but the uplift of those who were local radio listeners was so significantly higher in a lot of our results versus those who do not listen to local radio and therefore were only exposed to the other parts of our campaign. It gave us a huge amount of confidence in the impact that it had.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's great. A very, very clear answer. It's great that you did that research to affirm, your strategy, which is brilliant. Maybe Chris, I know your campaign was particularly performance led, but you might just give a few thoughts on the awareness side of it.
Yeah, awareness plays a role, obviously, in kind of pushing people down the funnel naturally, but so Irish Life do more general, so we wouldn't have to cut in terms of my life, or I definitely wouldn't have it to hand, but I can definitely talk more generally about Irish Life and our audio campaign. So yes, it plays a huge role in our awareness activity, and it has a huge impact. We do an abundance of radio across the year as well as digital audio. In terms of my life specifically, then I think I've touched on this, but we actually had no AV activity at all. Like in terms of above the line, it was audio led between the digital audio, dynamic audio, and linear radio. So that's really where we're attributing the impact in terms of that awareness top of funnel piece. Whereas then, like I said, the search and social was doing the heavy lifting in terms of the specifics of performance and attribution there.
Brilliant. That was great. Listen, really thanks. We're just coming up to 1 p.m. and I know that means it's lunchtime. So I just double check there's no more questions in the Q&A. So I want to firstly, before we go, just remind everybody the next Radio Centre Ireland event is an in-person event on October the 10th. It's in the round room at the Mansion House. Now it's virtually sold out. There's, I think, a tiny number of tickets left. I'm going to ask if I can increase the capacity, but I may not be able to. So if you haven't registered and you want to go, if you go to the Radio Centre Ireland website or go back to the previous newsletters, the link is there and you can register and look forward to seeing everybody in person on the 10th of October. I really want to give huge thanks to Tara, to Chloe, to Chris, and unfortunately Graham couldn't be here, but the huge effort you put into this by sharing that amazing work with me, sharing your insights about the campaigns and sharing your insights generally about the medium. I really appreciate it. It was really well presented. It was fantastic work. And I want to thank everybody else for attending and taking the time out of your busy day. So thank you very much. See you next on September the 10th, and there'll be webinars to follow after that as well. So thank you all, and goodbye.